How's he on a bike? Well, probably because there's not as much fuel it requires.
Yeah. Oh, the Moon's Prince. Triple header, Venezuela, Iran, curbs. Would be crazy. Yep, it would be crazy. Venezuela, yes, we've got that. Cuba, good chance we got that. Cuba, to be fair, doesn't really matter. It doesn't have oil. It doesn't. It's not a big player in any way, but it's close to the United States, and it would be a great victory for Trump. The problem is Iran. That one we might be losing, unfortunately. But Cuba, I'm saying we might be losing because opening the Strait of Hormuz would require like 100,000 troops on the ground. It takes 6 months to put for the U.S. to put together 100,000 troops. We hadn't started any preparation when we started this war. And if the Strait of Hormuz is closed for 6 months, Republicans are probably going to lose the midterms and Trump will be impeached. And that means Iran is set, as we have right now, to cause regime change in the United States. As far as I can see, I just don't see any off-ramp for Trump. I mean, he would have to agree to reparations and complete basically all of Iran's demands to end for them to open the Strait of Hormuz, which he isn't going to do. And we don't have the troops to open it, and there's no other way to open it. So it's just not a great situation in Iran.
Holy shit. The brave people of Cuba have just taken over the headquarters of the Communist Party. These rebels set fire to the building, setting the communist building on fire.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can understand they're upset, but honestly, yeah, it's not great cutting off the oil supply to a country. I mean, it's like getting into war crime territory. Yes, you don't like the country, you just shut off war supply, but if something eventually good comes of all this, then I'd be more accepting, but if it's just making the people of Cuba suffer, Trump better actually accomplish something out of all this, is what I'm saying.
Damn.
The Islamic Republic is doomed. I'm telling you that as an Iranian. They are trying to make themselves more huge and more powerful than they actually are. Okay, long term, I agree with you. I agree that, I actually agree with that. That long term, there's a lot of people in Iran that don't want the Islamic Republic anymore. Short term, like next 6 months, that's the problem. Because if Iran's government was going to fall, it would have happened that first night that Trump struck. There's not been a single nation in the world, in all of history, that has that there's been regime change from bombing alone, air campaign. Going all the way back to World War I, before World War I, after World War II, after. Bombing alone has never successfully caused regime change. It usually hardens the population against it. And it takes us 6 months to put boots on the ground. Put 100,000, what's necessary to open the Strait of Hormuz. So, victory condition for Iran is just hold the Strait of Hormuz closed for 6 months. That's all they need to do. How do we stop them? I don't disagree that the Islamic Republic could go away in probably after the conflict is over. There might be reforms and something might happen, but while the U.S. is bombing Iran, I don't think anything is going to happen. I just keep in mind the Iranian protesters are told to wait until the call comes. That's why nothing is happening right now. Well, from all I see, Trump expected something to have happened by now. The plan, definitely from the Trump side, was for something to have happened. When you have Trump suggesting things like U.S. military ships escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, which is absolutely insane, because we'd lose ships. It's in such a short distance from Iran, and they have all those drones, we would lose ships. When he's proposing insane stuff like that, there's no plan right now on the part of the Trump's administration. It's a real problem. And you might not like the Islamic State I can understand it, But tell me this: wouldn't you feel a little bit of pride as an Iranian if Iran defeats the United States? I'm just wondering, would you feel any pride as an Iranian if Iran defeats the United States? Just curious about that.
Damn. Uh-oh.
No, Trump himself says Iranian protesters should not come out of their house right now. So I don't know what exactly the plan is, but I can't do anything except waiting. Yeah. By the way, there was one point, at least, right after the bombing war started, that Trump was calling for Iranians to come out of their houses. I think that when Iranians didn't, he changed his tune about that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But from all I'm seeing, this is not going according to plan for Trump. That is all the indications I'm seeing. Well, I might be wrong, but that's the reality I'm witnessing.
Communism's canceled.
But you didn't answer my question. Would you feel any pride if Iran defeated the United States? Just, I mean, it might not. There's still Iranians fighting the United States right now, and if like the first country in like decades that defeats the United States. Any pride if that happened? Just wondering.
It's done. Basically, Cuba.
I'm just saying that because I think that's one of the dynamics going on right now. Is Iran is doing much better than everyone expected against the United States. And so you have people in Iran, even people that don't really like the Islamic regime, that are like, I think a lot of people that don't like the Islamic regime don't really like Israel either. Let me put it to you that way. And Iran is doing very well against Israel right now. So do you really want to help Israel? There's that angle to that. Most of those generals are Iraqi origins. I didn't know that. But I'm curious, okay, on this question, how do you feel about Israel, the Moon Prince?
After seeing Iran, after seeing Venezuela, I think the guy from Cuba is like, okay, I'm going to call you. I see where things are going here. Cuba's president confirms the communist government has begun negotiations with Trump. They are negotiating with the United States to initiate the...
On Cuba, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump gets his way. Cuba is right in the U.S.'s backyard. They've cut up oil supply, and yeah, it's... there's a good chance that I don't see why Trump wouldn't manage to do something there. Iran's a completely different beast, though.
Democratic process for the end of the Cuban regime.
Right now at 11, we begin with major breaking news in a rare move.
The normal Iranian military, by the way, is not part of this war. Nobody really knows what they will do. The normal army is 600K personnel with 1,000+ tanks. I think probably those tanks are a lot on the ground. Thing is, we live in the era of drone warfare. If there was any type of invasion of Iran, I imagine it would look very much like what's going on in Ukraine. And there, they basically stop using tanks entirely because they're just targets for drones. And I just know that Russia, and despite everything we see in the West, they are very capable forces. It's really hard to fight an entrenched enemy that has drones, even with air superiority. Russia has air superiority over the battlefield in Ukraine, but that it doesn't solve the problem of all these hidden locations sending out drones and making it really slow to advance. We'd run into that too. So any boots on the ground would be a high loss situation, probably for both sides. But Trump started this war as a Democratic president from a position of incredible weakness in that there was no popular support for this war. That means he just cannot, if there are a lot of casualties, people will turn against it really fast to the level where he can't continue. That's one other reason that I think it was a mistake to do this war. At least the way Trump did it, get more people on board, like make the case to the American people, get Congress on your side so that you're not vulnerable to impeachment if Democrats take control of Congress. I just don't think this was done the right way if it was going to be done at all. And you have a plan for if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz. You have to have a plan for Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz. You can't just, after you bomb Iran, go, oh, damn, they've closed the Strait of Hormuz. What are we going to do now? You have an army ready to go in to open that right away. I think Israel did in Gaza is inhuman. What they are doing in Iran is not the same principle. They are not really targeting civilians, except for that one tragedy with a girls' school built inside a military complex, but that was the United States. Yes, agreed, it was the United States. By the way, that, from what I hear, it used to be a military facility 15 years ago, the girls' school. And so I think it's some very bad intelligence that wasn't updated. That's why we targeted it. However, I don't think it's justified for 90 million Iranians to live under an oppressive regime only because the Islamic Republic is the only one fighting Israel, laugh it out. The Arabs should do that. What the fuck does that have to do with us? Yeah, I agree, but Arabs are U.S. vassal states. They have military bases. We basically own them. They're not going to be fighting Israel. Any state that has a U.S. military base in it is basically, I hate to say it, the U.S.'s bitch. The U.S.'s bitch is not going to do anything to Israel. And Iran's the only one that's not that right now. So that's what this whole war is about from Israel's perspective, is to take out the one player that actually opposes them in the region. And you might you say we're only going after, you know that the U.S. and Israel have bombed a desalination plant in Iran, right? That is a civilian target. And we bombed their oil infrastructure. And if I'm guessing you're not in part of the country that's raining toxic acid rain, because that probably wouldn't be fun, having 10 million people poisoned as a result of a refinery being blown up. I'm guessing the people that had that happen aren't terribly thrilled with the United States and Israel right now. And I'm just wondering, I'm guessing you weren't around for it when Iraq gassed like 300,000 Iranians with chemical weapons that we, the United States, gave them the materials to make, the intelligence to use. And we basically, when Saddam Hussein was losing the war, we basically helped him gas a huge number of Iranians. And I have to imagine there are some Iranians that remember that and aren't too thrilled about the U.S. coming in and being the savior of Iran. I don't think the Jews are too happy with Nazi Germany when they gassed millions of Jews. I think gassing a huge amount of your population might turn you against that power. But what do I know?
Cuba has already begun releasing political prisoners. Cuba also confirmed today it's in talks with the Trump administration. Cuba's leader, Miguel Diaz-Canel, announcing both countries are in the early stage.
Yes, I know. I don't see the United States, U.S. as heroes, laugh it loud. I know they have their own interests, but right now what unites our interests is the removal of the regime. Well, I think that, many commentators I've talked to, yes, Iran was on the verge of getting rid of the Islamic Republic. And some people have said that in 6 months, if we had not bombed them, it would have happened anyway. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. The fact is, there's never been regime change as a result of a bombing campaign. It hardens the population. I don't think there will be regime change as long as the war with the United States is going on. I don't think it's possible. I think that once it ends, once conflict with the United States ends, there'll be pressure for reforms and you might get rid of the Islamic Republic at that point in time. But I actually think the longer this war goes with the U.S. goes on, during that period, I don't think there'll be a successful regime change. Just going by history, it just has never happened before. And bombing that girls' school at the very beginning, it was not a way to get people on our side, on the U.S.'s side. And so, yeah, I'm going on assumption. I could be wrong. The Moon's Prince, you might be right. Maybe there'll be an uprising in mid this war, but let me ask you, would the United States have been floating that idea about using the Kurds to invade Iran? Would the United States been floating ideas of putting boots on the ground if they were confident that there was going to be a regime change by itself in Iran? I just think that they've realized that that's not going to happen, at least not immediately. Now, it wouldn't have happened. Seeing them being willing to kill 30K protesters in January, we all saw that. It's not possible for the US alone to remove them. Yeah. On that note, as someone from Iran, I'm curious. Secretary, Treasury, Iranian Rial. I'm just curious about one thing. Get this. If you've seen this,
I'd like to ask you, what more can we be doing as we see us?
boots on the ground is suicidal. The best way of support would be to have unmanned drones in the sky who would then target security forces who try to shoot the protesters down in the uprising. Yes, but drones in the sky, where are they going to do that from? Iran has been shooting down drones, a lot of drones, less fighter pilots, but it has been regularly taking down drones over Iranian territory. And Iran is huge. The drones have a limited range. Where exactly would the United States be flying these? Tehran's up here, right? So where are they flying those drones from? You can't fly those drones that far away to target the protesters. You need planes to go that type of distance. Planes with refueling jets. So it's not that easy. And anyway, let me get back to this video. I was wondering if you'd heard this before.
Place pressure on the Ayatollah, who is no friend of the United States of America. And as we see what he is doing to the citizens of his own country and the streets, what more can we be doing to make sure that we are placing the pressure that we need to?
Well, what we can do at Treasury and what we have done is created a dollar shortage in the country. At a speech at the Economic Club of New York in March, I outlined the strategy. It came
March of last year.
To a swift and I would say grand culmination in December when one of the largest banks
in other words, if you have high inflation in Iran right now, that isn't mismanaged part of the Iranian regime. That is a deliberate attack by the United States against Iran. We did that. We fucked over your currency. You're paying high prices because we, United States, don't like your government. So we decide to fuck over your currency. And so I just was wondering if you knew that background.
Iran went under. There was a run on the bank. The central bank had to print money. The Iranian currency went into free fall. Inflation exploded. And hence we have seen the Iranian people out on the street. We will continue.
This is basically U.S. Secretary of the Treasury bragging that they destroyed your currency, and we caused the protests. We're bragging. He's under oath here. He's explaining how United States just fucked over your country. And this is who you want to save you?
You monitoring all the partners, all the Iranian partners. The good news, Senator, is that we have seen, and what we have do is
that we need to.
Well, what we can do at Treasury, and what we have done is created a dollar shortage in the country. At a speech at the Economic Club of New York in March, I outlined the strategy.
Inflation is fun, right?
Swift and
when you have a country,
there's no way
the world's
I'd like to ask
biggest superpower, like our financial system, all geared towards screwing over your country's currency. It does tend to make life horrible, doesn't it? Yeah, I agree that it's a combination. There is definitely a part of this that is on Iran itself. But when you have a nation like the United States, and United States financial control is phenomenal. Like, if they decide to short your currency, I don't think there's anything Iran could have done except maybe rely more on China. That's one mistake they maybe did, is they should have gotten currency. They should have asked China for help. I agree that that's one thing they could have done, but I think that I would be upset if the United States was going out of its way to destroy my country's currency. That would piss me off, at least. And I will mention one other thing, that I don't know what's happening with Iran. It's too recent to actually be able to tell. But with regard to Ukraine, I wanted my channel. Ukraine. Oh yeah, so it was around the protests. Okay, so might be this video. This is before Aiden. He'd believe, the horrible. Okay, this is what happened in Ukraine. New COVID. What I mean is, in Ukraine, when they had their uprising in 2014. There's someone shot at the protesters and killed a lot of protesters. They also killed police. Well, who did that? It turns out that this is a court case. All right, actually, let's just watch how they initially reported it. President is the pro-Russia president of Ukraine. That was democratically elected, that the West, United States, etc., wanted to get rid of, to make Ukraine pro-West. And so all these protesters, as if you just heard in this video, I'm hiding myself. The entire world were told they were gunned down by the police on the president's orders.
The charges were made during a news conference by the prosecutor general. Planned as an anti-terrorist operation, it was in fact a mass killing of people which took place under the direct orders
sort of like Iran, right?
He said.
The evil regime in Iran killed all those protesters. So if possible, but let's just look at what actually happened in Ukraine. You were a naive, like someone like Asmundgold. We're going to use it because that's how he reacted in Iran. He hears this, that president that fled the country, that pro-Russia president, he was a monster. He deserved to be taken out because he murdered all these protesters. That's the reaction that people like Asmundgold would be to this type of news if this was breaking live, like he's reacting to the stuff in Iran.
The accusations were denied by the ousted leader during a Russian internet...
Yeah, he was denied, but they treat him like, of course he's a liar. Confirms. So what actually confirms, this is a trial, 2014. This is a trial in... Ukraine is rabidly anti-Russian, yet this is what the result of the trial in Ukraine was. False flag Maidan massacre in Ukraine. Basically, there was a trial to do with all those people that were killed in Maidan Square that we saw in those videos. And I'll just read this. A nearly 1 million word verdict from Ukraine's Maidan massacre trial has recently confirmed that many Maidan activists were shot not by members of Ukraine's Beirut Special Police Force or other law enforcement personnel, but by snipers in the far-right controlled Hotel Ukraina and other Maidan-controlled locations a decade ago today. In other words, it was Western agents that were shooting the protesters in Ukraine. That's what was happening. It wasn't the Ukrainian police. It wasn't So, going by history, I suspect that those people gunning down protesters, some of them were Western agents, because that's what's happened in a lot of places, not just Ukraine. Practically, we can't find out this out right away, but we know that it was Israel that was handing out weapons to the protesters. And as far as I'm concerned, wrecking countries' currency and then handing weapons out to protesters, that sounds like a way to get a lot of people killed, but what do I know? Sounds like a pretty nasty thing to do to a country. The Iranian protesters didn't have weapons. There are lots of video footage that show Iranian protesters with weapons. That someone was handing out weapons to protesters, and Mossad accounts were bragging about having handed out weapons to protesters. Let me find that again. Bragging weapons protesters. No, they were bragging social media. Social media. Mossad uses I'll have to find I can't find the story right off the top. But they were, yeah, someone was handing out weapons to the protesters, and someone smuggled in a huge number of Starlink terminals to Iran. I mean, it's coordinated. The United States like wrecks the Iranian currency. You know there's going to be protesters. This was a planned protest from abroad. And yes, I'm sure there's a lot of legitimate discontent with the Islamic Republic. But do you want to end up like a Ukraine? Because look at what's happening to Ukraine now. There are between 1.5 and 1.8 million Ukrainian dead because we, the West, have used it as a proxy to attack Russia. That's what happens when the United States sets you up as a puppet state. And I guarantee you, good things don't happen to the people that U.S. installs puppet states in their countries. Oh, okay. I'll read the long text. Sorry, I might have missed that one. But that in Ukraine is an incident. In Iran, it's 30K. And the state TV openly says the protesters, even kids, will be shot on the street. If it says that, yeah, that's terrible. The officials say that protesters are enemies of Allah and deserve the highest punishment, death. They made fun on state TV of the protesters killed by doing a quiz about in which type of refrigerator the bodies would be kept. Like, how disgusting do you have to be? Yeah, that does sound terrible. So it does sound like different than Ukraine in that Ukraine, the legitimately democratically elected president, didn't do anything insane. It was Russia who attacked Ukraine, not U.S. who attacked through Ukraine. So your claim is pointless. Well, after the war started, the United States has been using Ukraine as a proxy. We've sent huge number of weapons, like we sent like U.S. missiles there that are operated by U.S. personnel using U.S. intelligence, U.S. targeting, U.S. satellites, and it's all done by U.S. And we're basically that's proxy warfare. But I have to go. But thank you for interesting points and the discussion we had. I appreciate too. I always appreciate different points of view. I think that I wish it could be resolved that there could be a democratic government in Iran that represented Iran and not the interests of the United States and Israel. That would be the best outcome.